Calvin Castine in Champlain on Route 276, looking north toward the Canadian border, about 2 to 2.5 miles or so that direction is the U.S.-Canadian border. To our right, to the east of here, is the village of Rouse's Point, which is located right on the border, and to our left, to the west, is the village of Champlain. We are standing on the property of Louis and Rita Bedard in the historic Dewey Tavern, which was occupied here in the 1800s, and we see reenactors arriving for the ceremony that's about to take place. 1814, this was a popular stagecoach stop. We have chronicled this many times over the years, including earlier this year. And the events that will take place here will today commemorate the events that took place here 200 years ago when the British were occupying this property, and the ground troops were on their way to Plattsburgh. There will be a ceremony here with the historians and reenactors and bagpipers, and then they'll go over to the Dewey family cemetery and have a brief ceremony after raising the British flag at the Dewey family cemetery following this event right here. So we're going to chronicle this. When we leave here, we'll be heading for Culver Hill. Then later today, we'll be heading for Halsey's Corners. And this is a historic Dewey Tavern, which was occupied by the British and also at times occupied by American officers too when the British weren't here invading. And it was reportedly peace treaties in the War of 1812 were negotiated and signed here at this location.
Community College, and I'm the Town of Champlain historian. And I'd like to welcome you all here to Dewey's Tavern. First of all, I'd like to thank Louis and Rita Bedard for allowing us to have this event here and for their faithful preservation of Dewey's Tavern, because without them, we wouldn't be here today. Now, the reason we're here today is because events began in the Battle of Plattsburgh, right in this vicinity, when the British crossed the border from Canada to invade New York during the War of 1812. Now, we're here today to obviously commemorate the tremendous victory that followed in Plattsburgh, which turned the entire course of the war and led to the peace treaty at Ghent. But we're also here today to honor all the men who served so faithfully and gave their lives to the cause, both on the American side and the British and Canadian sides. Now, in addition, what I like to also commemorate on this particular event, especially in this bicentennial of the Battle of Plattsburgh and the culmination of the War of 1812, is it initiated 200 years of peace between ourselves, the United States of America, and our close British allies, which is a long-standing peace for nations who had been enemies. So, to move right along, I'd like to introduce Larry Barkham, our town superintendent.
Thank you, Tom. On behalf of the town board, I welcome you all here today on the 200th years anniversary. Is this thing working? No. Is it? No?
Put it closer to you.
Closer? Wow, that's really got to be close. Anyways, welcome. Nice crowd. It's the first time event for me. I've been working Saturdays for 40 years. This is my first time I've been able to be here. We thank all the participants. I don't want to name them all because I'm sure we'll miss some, but I'm sure Tom will probably introduce them all later. But we thank you on behalf of the town for coming. Enjoy the day. Hopefully the weather will hold out for the next few minutes anyways. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Larry. Next, I'd like to introduce a man who's done a tremendous amount of work here at Dewey's and throughout the northern tier section of the Battle of Plattsburgh in the War of 1812, Mr. David Patrick.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Bedard said it was 90% chance that we're going to hold off on the rain, so I'm taking him for his word. I'm unveiling a panel that we made to commemorate Dewey's Tavern. It's the second panel that I made. The first one is on the house already, and it's been made with a partnership with the Champlain Valley National Heritage Partnership and Lake Champlain Basin Program. And I show basically the route of the American and British armies, where they camped, where the significant battles were. And I also posted several different panels, markers that were dedicated 1938 during Champlain's 150th anniversary. Hugh McClellan, who did a lot of work around Champlain, architect and historian, did the writing of the panels, and they were dedicated in August in 1938. The same map is over here. Thanks, Larry. The same map is over here, and it shows significant events. And so 1800, Elias Dewey, or 1797, Elias Dewey came to town. He built this, basically his log cabin here. And then 1800, he built the main house, which was on the road to Montreal and Albany. And so it became a tavern very shortly. And of course, 1812, the war starts, and there's a lot of activity here. This was the main road up to Montreal. This road here, which goes to Rouse's Point, was cut by Dewey, and it went to Prospect and into the village of Champlain. And in 1812, General Henry Dearborn came down this road and camped in Moore's Orchards across from Alan Racine's house. And he went up to Ottletown, or Lacole, the next day, got defeated and came back and retired his army in November. There was a lot of activity there. Typhus was rampant, and a lot of people died in Champlain because of that, townspeople too. That's spread by lice. And then in there wasn't really much activity after that until 1813, when more troops came down. Hamilton, there was a Hampton encampment in September 1813. He was camped literally across the road here, used this as his headquarters. And then there was the pillage of the village of Champlain, November 1813, where there was a picket guard up the road, and we were firing on the picket guard. General Perot, or Major Perot of Canadian, he was very upset, and he said, if this happens again, we're going to pillage the village. And it happened in Vermont, and then the village got pillaged. Then 1814, we also had more activity going on too, and of course that's where General Perot's army was, or Prevost's army was camped here. So there's a lot of activity that went on, and we're gonna. I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but it's raining now. But of course, it rains just when I started talking. But in the village of Champlain, we also had numerous activities too. We had a Forsyth burial. Forsyth was killed right up the road here, and this map shows a lot of activity that went on because of that. So, thank you for coming. And we could, yeah.
We can do that. I think there's room for all of us in the car. I'm going to shove the tractor out here.
Okay, next I'd like to introduce the Clinton County historian, Anastasia Pratt.
I think he's gonna. Well, I think we'll Looks like it's stopping for a minute.
I don't think any of us are going to meld anyway. Just plunge ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to be short because it is raining, and thank you. Thank you for being here. Historians or students of history know that anniversaries happen every single day, but this is a particularly important anniversary. 200 years since the Battle of Plattsburgh, 200 years since the events that happened at Dewey's Tavern, 200 years since this country and county-altering event occurred. That's a monumental occasion. I thank you for being here on behalf of the people of Clinton County, and I also thank those who help us to remember this event. Thank you, Bob. The delightful Town of Chazy historian. I thank the people who help us to remember this, to remember that a lasting peace did come from the less than peaceful actions that occurred here. To the people who remind us that life changed throughout the county. Nobody was untouched by this war. No one was untouched by this battle. Women and children moved, picked up camp, and lived elsewhere.
Come into the barn.
As we probably will pick up camp and move very soon. But it was a county-wide event, and just suffice it to say that one of the reasons this is an important anniversary is that every part of Clinton County was touched by this war. And really, that's the gist of what I had to say. So, thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to introduce Kent Booth. I think he's hiding inside here.
I knew I couldn't hold it.
Anyone can come inside.
I'm the smart one. I'm going to get inside. I don't know about the rest of you folks. Why don't you come down to the other end of the barn? There's plenty of room to stand out of the rain if you'd like to.
Let's go.
Is this working?
Yeah, that's working.
This is a pretty big deal this year. We worked really hard on it for the last 12 months, and I think the labor of the committee is paying off, and things are looking pretty good. I only want to tell you about a couple of good things, new things that are happening, along with all of the things that you've come to expect over the Battle of Plattsburgh celebration. First of all, this year it was 17 days. We've already taken 7 of them, and there's still 10 days to go. I want to point out a couple of new things. In 1914, 100 years ago, there were pageants that took place in Plattsburgh for the entire week prior to the actual anniversary of the battle. This year we actually have a pageant. It's called Battling in Plattsburgh. It's a play that's been written by Dr. Rich Frost and is directed by Bonnie Black, and it's going to be playing one more. It's already played twice, Thursday and Friday night. I was there Thursday night to a capacity crowd at the Hartman Theater, and tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock it will play for the final time, again in the Hartman Theater. Something you really ought to see. It is the pageant that we will be having this year, and certainly something to remember the event by. There is a big thing going on Crab Island this year for the first, we've always had something over there on the 11th, which is Thursday. But this is bigger than usual. Post 1619 of the American Legion has been working very hard on this for the past year. They will have dignitaries from all over the state as well as the country of the American Legion who will be here to help commemorate the actual monument over there, the hospital that was there in 1814, and the more than 100 American and British who are buried there side by side on the island. The Navy band will be there as well, and several dignitaries. This year we've got 20 members of the McDonough family who will be coming back to the various events, and they will all be there on Crab Island too. To catch a boat over to Crab Island, you need to get to the Cliff Haven Beach sometime 8:30 to 10 o'clock probably. There will be several boats shuttling people back and forth to the island, providing it isn't perhaps weather like this, or if the lake is kicking up to a point where it's not safe to go back and forth. All of that will happen at the community college at 11 o'clock. That afternoon, of course, the usual Riverside Cemetery program, and I just point out that in the schedule of events, the program there starts at 4 o'clock, which is true. The official program does, but the U.S. Navy Band will be there, the complete band, and the combined choirs from the State University at Plattsburgh will also be part of that, along with our pipers who are here today, Jerry Tatro and Al Walker. They will all be there along with a bunch of dignitaries and the reenactors, of course, to fire a salute. But just be sure to notice that although it says 4 o'clock in the program, 3:30 is when you can actually start listening to some entertainment by the U.S. Navy Band. Let's see, what else do we need to talk about? Huge parade coming up, of course, on Saturday afternoon. We had a meeting about of the parade committee on Thursday. We already had 120 units. We'll have 14 bands. So it's going to be the biggest parade probably that you've seen maybe since World War II, and maybe even ever. I don't know. It's a biggie anyway. Friday night, I want to mention, of course, the Blues House Rockers will be performing from the steps of City Hall starting at 7:30. There will also be the Navy Band participating with them in their second set and also playing during the fireworks which follow. I didn't mention the fireworks on Crab Island on Thursday night as well. That's going to be a huge display, and we'll be seeing, anybody that's living in Cliff Haven will certainly see it. But also you can come to the community college and watch it from the lawn up there. It's a beautiful spot to watch the fireworks. Friday night we will also honor the honor flight vets at the ceremony or the concert on Friday night. I guess the only other thing is the wonderful family event of the Children's Old Time Village Fair, which happens on Sunday and closes our weekend commemoration celebration. I think that's about all. I have buttons here if anybody wants them. They're $15 this year. That averages out to 68 cents a concert, so it really isn't very expensive. Thank you very much again. I have programs as well, so thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Well, thank you for all your long, hard work on making this event possible this year and for several years. And also in the background, we got to thank Gary Van Coor, another very important man in the entire Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration. Let's give Gary a round of applause. Okay, next, Craig, are you still going to fire a salute? Okay. Craig Russell is going to fire a salute in honor of the soldiers of the battles. He's out here. I'm sure you'll be able to hear it in there.
Let's hold it this way. Soldier style, hold myself. Looking at the firing.
Let's hope.
camera. All right, that concludes our ceremony here. We're going to go across the street and raise the flag for any of you who want to brave the weather. If you don't, we completely understand. So thank you all for coming. Those of you who want to join us across the street at the flagpole near the cemetery, you're more than welcome, where we'll do the raising of the British flag. Have a good afternoon.
This is Tom Mandeville, the MC for today and town historian for Town of Champlain. He's going to say a few words, and as you can see, we are located directly across the street, across the road from Northeastern Clinton Central School, Dewey Family Cemetery.
All right, we're going to have our ceremonial raising of the British flag because they occupied this area at this point 200 years ago. On September 25th, there'll be a short ceremony here where we'll lower the British flag and raise the American flag to signify the British retreat back to Canada and the victory at Plattsburgh. So I'm going to raise the flag. We're going to play God Save the Queen. So here we go. We'll redo it later. Fellas?
Not sure if they're ready to offer a gun salute or...
All right, I want to thank you all for coming today. Rain let up for us, not a bad day.
Okay, the flag is now flying proudly over American soil. The British first occupied this property in August 28th. The first scouts came through and started camping around here, 1814. After the Battle of Plattsburgh on September 11th, 1814. Those involved in a land battle made their way back north. They tended their wounded along the way when they got here. They continued to tender their wounded, those that died here at the Dewey Tavern, the Dewey Farm, were reportedly buried here in the Dewey Family Cemetery. This flagpole represents the location of the Dewey Family Cemetery. So that'll conclude this portion. We'll be marching on to Culver Hill and Halsey's Corner today on this September 6th, but this is the Dewey Tavern and Dewey Family Cemetery portion of remembering 200 years, the anniversary of the battles of Plattsburgh.